Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. Welcome to our fine Saturday evening show here. We hope everybody's having a great weekend. Um, couple little things to talk about this evening. Before we do that, if you haven't noticed, every single day over the past week, we've uploaded a video of our predictions for each SEC football team. It's been a lot of fun to interact with folks on different teams there. A lot of people in Florida not liking us at the moment, which has been kind of humorous. But that's been fun. They're watching it, so that's good. Bringing attention to the channel.
Florida and Kentucky both are not very happily surprised with our predictions.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not honorary Vol Bros and sisters right now. They're not too happy with us. First thing we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about two things. But the first thing is SEC Media Days is just right around the corner. It's July 17th through the 20th. It's actually in Nashville this year. And Tennessee's Day is, I believe, the 20th. And we're just going to speculate wildly here for a moment who Tennessee will take as representatives from the football team. So how we're going to do this is we're going to do, and we'd love to hear your predictions as well. What three players do you believe Tennessee will take? But how we're going to do is a little bit different. We're going to rank them as far as our level of confidence that this person will be there or not. And so, Rustin, who are you most confident? We'll go back and forth here. Who's the most confident that you think will be representing Tennessee at SEC Media Days?
Well, I think Tennessee knows that this is the opportunity to start the Milton for Heisman campaign. So number one for me would be Joe Milton, because they just need to get him in front of cameras as much as possible before the season starts.
I totally agree. That was my number one as well. That's why I actually put him on the thumbnail for this video, because I think everybody and their mama knows Joe Milton will be representing Tennessee at SEC Media Days. We already got some people chiming in. That's awesome. I appreciate that. Ooh, man. So Papa J, and I'll put his comment up on the screen just a minute. He just made a really good prediction that I hadn't even thought of. And I think it's a really good one. Okay, so Joe Milton, that was my number one as well. I think we can all agree Joe will be in Nashville. Who are you second most confident about?
So you got your offensive captain and your defensive captain. So I would expect Aaron Beasley to be there as well. Aaron's actually also a really good interview. He's a very thoughtful kid, responds well. So I think he'll do really well at media days. And I think we'll probably hear a lot of people out of Nashville really complimenting interviewing Aaron Beasley and the responses that he gives.
So we did not discuss this beforehand of who we were going to predict here, but so far we're 2 for 2, exact same. I think Aaron Beasley, I'm second most confident that he will be there. Definitely Joe, and probably Aaron Beasley. I'd be shocked if Beasley wasn't there, especially after the coming out party he had against Clemson in the bowl game. I mean, he just dominated that game and really put himself on the map. And so I would be really shocked if Aaron Beasley isn't there. Now, this third one, this is where it gets a little tricky, because there's a bunch of different people who could be that third person. Who are you least confident in, but you think will be in Nashville?
I think it'll either be Cooper Mays or Tyler Barron. I think that I think if they decide that they want just a really good interview, they'll take Cooper Mays because he's just really good with the media. I think if they want to send a message that, you know, they are confident in their defense and that the defensive line is going to be a big part of what they do this year, then I could easily see Tyler Barron going.
So you surprised me with that, because I didn't think about Tyler Barron, but that's a good pick. I thought you were going to say Bru McCoy. I think most people will probably expect Bru McCoy to be there, but he's not my third. My third pick that I think will be there is Ramel Keaton. You know, they took Joe and Ramel up to New York, and you know, same situation as last year when Hendon Hooker was up there, and they had the photo of him in Times Square. They did the same thing with Joe and Ramel this summer. So I think Ramel Keaton's going to end up being there because they know that he's going to have a breakout year as well. And so, yeah, Daryl said. So Daryl said, "What about Brew?" Yeah, I mean that's absolutely he could be one of the people. I just don't know why they took Ramel to New York if they weren't also planning on taking him to Nashville. Brew, like Rustin, was talking about a couple other guys. Brew's a great interview. He's a, on the baseball team this year. Griffin Merritt was a great interview. He was by far and away the best interview on the baseball team. So comfortable on the camera. I mean, like, just did a great job. Brew is the same way. Very comfortable on the camera. Would do a great job. But it could be that they took Ramel to New York, and Brew's opportunity to shine is going to be at SEC Media Days. Could be. I think that Brew would definitely be one of the people that's certainly in consideration for that number 3. Papa J said Rustin had a good point about Tyler Barron about sending a message, and I think that's a really good point too. What were you going to say, Rustin?
I didn't pick another skill guy because I feel like Josh Heupel knows that the SEC is one in the trenches. So I feel like he's got essentially 2 skill guys in Joe Milton and Aaron Beasley, and that he would want to take somebody bigger.
Sure.
He would want to send a message that he understands that the SEC is one at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I thought about Omari Thomas. Maybe he could end up, in SEC Media Days. Dester said Joe is the man. Totally agree. Dester, Papa J, and Daryl, we're so glad y'all are with us. Thank you for letting us know your predictions. We would love to hear other people's predictions for which 3 volunteers will represent Tennessee at SEC Media Days. So put those in the comments if you're watching. I'm going to go back to Papa J's first comment because I love this. I had not thought about Cooper Mays, but let me say this for anything else. Aside from Joe Milton, I think Cooper Mays is the most important player on this team because he is going to be the linchpin on the offensive line. He is going to be the person who, in this offense, the center is of utmost importance anyway, because they have to be the first person on the ball, leading everyone else to the ball every single play. And Cooper's done an incredible job with that. And so he's obviously going to be extremely vitally important in this team. And man, we just got to hope he doesn't get hurt. They need him this year.
Well, and in this offense, the center calls the initial block scheme. So the center actually calls the block scheme at the line of scrimmage, and then the quarterback has the ability to alter it if they see something different. But a lot of times the center actually calls the scheme.
So I love that pick from Papa J because I think that he deserves it. Certainly, Cooper certainly deserves it. He's going to be extremely important to this team, and I can totally see him representing Tennessee at SEC Media Days. That would be a wonderful selection. We'd love to hear other people's. Go ahead.
The other skill guy that I thought could go, only if they decide to go with, honestly, the guy who's played more snaps than absolutely anybody on the whole roster, and that's Tank McCullough.
Yeah.
If they went with the oldest guy.
Also a great interview.
Mm-hmm. If they went with the oldest guy and the guy who's played probably, I would bet, more snaps than anybody else on the entire roster, he would make sense. I think they'll send a message, and that third guy will be somebody on the offensive or defensive line.
Yep. I don't think, Peely or Gabe Judy Lawley would be either one because you wouldn't do that to your people who have been there for a long time. But I tell you what, both those guys are great interviews as well. Both of them. But, I loved hearing. So Gabe Judy Lawley reminded me a lot of Alex Golesh, in that Alex Golesh, he was sometimes overly honest in his interviews when he was at Tennessee. And that's why, the media just had to absolutely love when they saw his name on the schedule for the day. They're going to be like, oh yeah, it's going to be a great interview today. He was sometimes so honest that that the SID was back there going, please don't say that. Please don't say that. It was a lot of fun for fans and the media to hear Alex Golesh talk. One thing that Gabe Juniolali kind of showed this past summer, because he was on multiple interviews over the summer, or the spring, I mean. And one thing he kind of showed was he was pretty honest too. And they asked him like, who has impressed you the most, and he was just straight up honest about it. It was really cool hearing his answers, and he mentioned some freshmen and who impressed him the most. It was really cool to hear an honest opinion about stuff. Thor's hammer was orange and makes the letter T. There you go. Absolutely. He said, giving Florida fans something to talk about. LOL. I believe we're going to be good, but I prefer tight lips and not confident ones. Well, I understand based on, our history with Florida. I totally get that.
But you've also got to understand, the prediction wasn't about how Florida was going to do against Tennessee. The prediction was about Florida's entire season schedule.
Yeah.
And there's 11 other teams on there besides Tennessee, and I only think they're beating 3 of them.
Yeah.
So, sorry if the truth hurts a little bit, but it wasn't a confident comment. It was just looking at reality.
Yeah. Yeah. We were trying to be objective. Both of us picked 3-9 for them. They got a tough schedule, and it's not getting any easier next year. I feel sorry. Some of the comments on those videos today, I replied back to the Florida fans, and I told them, I was like, I genuinely feel sorry for Billy Napier, because he is not set up for success at all. The schedule that he had between the schedule this year and next year is going to be the hardest schedule in the history of college football for Florida. That's just the way it is. There are national analysts who are already talking about how difficult their schedule is going to be next year. So it's going to be really, really tough. You combine that with the NIL issues that they're having. He's not set up for success. And unfortunately for him, he's going to end up taking the blame for it when it's not his fault. But he and signing Graham Mertz, that's kind of his fault.
Yeah.
No one in that locker room, in the quarterback room in particular, is Anthony Richardson, or in the same stratosphere as Anthony Richardson. It's not going to be the most important position on the field is going to be a liability for Florida this year in the quarterback room. It's not setting up for him well.
Well, I mean, the facts are these. They had a weaker schedule last year, so they're playing a harder schedule. Their roster overall, not just at the quarterback position, but overall, they lost a lot. Like, their roster overall is not as good this year as it was last year, and they have no quarterback. So it is what it is.
So that SEC podcast with SEC Mike, and then they released a thing earlier this week ranking the quarterbacks in the SEC, and they had Graham Mertz literally last on the list, below the guy from Vandy. And I was like, man, that's got to sting if you're a Florida fan. Thor's hammer was orange and makes the letter T. Said they can't handle what Tennessee fans have had to handle for years. They can suffer. Yeah, they got a couple rough years ahead of them right here, because it's not going to get any easier next year. And that Billy Napier won't be there in 2025, because he'll take the brunt for what's happened these 2 years. And listen, Florida's not going to be happy with winning 4 and 5 games. That was one thing, that I asked a fan that they didn't respond to, was I said, so let's say Florida somehow does end up winning 4 or 5 games. Surely Florida fans are not going to be okay with that. Like, there's no way they'll be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a tough road ahead of them. We love to hear other people's opinions about who Tennessee will take to SEC Media Days. Rustin said that he believes it'll be Joe Milton, Aaron Beasley, and your third one was potentially
probably Tyler Barron
or Tyler Barron.
Yeah.
I said I think the 3 will be Joe Milton, Aaron Beasley, and Ramel Keaton. And obviously Brew McCoy would be a great selection to take as well. And it could be that ends up happening because they took Ramel to New York. And so maybe they're going to take Brew to Nashville. Kind of not the same. Seems like Ramel might have gotten a better deal out of that one, but we'll see what happens. who that third person will be. And we'll know pretty soon because they go in 12 days. So we'll know pretty soon. Before we sign off tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about the baseball transfer portal because it has been on fire. Rustin, tell us a little bit about that transfer portal.
Well, so I think there's a couple other things that kind of play into it as well. The draft starts Sunday. We will absolutely have 5 players taken absolutely in the first 2 days, maybe on day 1. So, exciting weekend, Sunday, Monday for the Vols.
And a really important couple days for the Vols to know who they're going to end up with and who they're not.
Yeah. I actually got the opportunity to talk to somebody at Wofford, and they think that Ryan Galaney's a 50-50. He's getting a lot of different evaluations on where he's going to get drafted. And so, it's really going to come down to what reality ends up being, where he gets drafted, and what the money is associated with that round.
Sure.
If NIL can get close, he will absolutely come. He will come to Knoxville and wait a year and improve his draft status and prove that he can, not just be the Southern Conference Player of the Year, but he can hit at that level in the SEC. If the money is good, he may never come to Knoxville. So it's going to be real interesting to see where he falls, and he's gotten a lot of different evaluations. The other one that's really bizarre is Zane Denton. Tennessee continues to sign guys and take guys out of the portal that can potentially play third base, Ryan Galaney being one of them. And he's not showing up on anybody's mock drafts. But you wouldn't continue to take lots of third basemen if you think he's going to be around. So clearly he has gotten some kind of evaluation. And for those of you who don't know how this works, the players don't just get evaluations. They will have organizations reach out to them or reach out to their advisor. If you're listening to this and not watching, advisor was in air quotes. That's the new NCAA policy where essentially baseball players can sign with agents, but they have to call them advisors, which is just ridiculous. Just let them have an agent. So they clearly some organization has told his advisor that they plan to take him, and you have to think NIL money would rule out any day 2 or day 3 draft pick. So somebody has clearly told Zane Denton that they're seriously considering him, which is just bizarre that he's not showing up on any mock drafts, but apparently they think there's a chance he may go. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. If he does go, and if Ryan Galaney goes, this is going to sound insane to say out loud, we'll be just fine. Tony Vitello has done just an unbelievable job of accumulating talent out of the portal. AJ Causey, the right-handed pitcher from Jacksonville State. A lot of people say he has the best changeup in America. Right now, Tennessee's portal class is number 1 in the country, and their recruiting class is number 1 in the country. Who would have ever have thought that a team could have the number 1 high school recruiting class and the number 1 portal class in the same year? Just unreal. So AJ Causey fills a lot of roles. Now that they got Nate Snead out of Wichita State, that means Causey is definitely going to be a starter. Nate Snead throws upper 90s, has touched 100 in a game. He was Wichita State's best reliever. He will absolutely be their closer. Just a unbelievable addition for Tony Vitello to go get a guy that will absolutely be a top round draft pick as a closer.
And you still got Zach Joyce back there too.
Yeah, and that's another one that's weird. All of a sudden, there's been some smoke around him. And I wasn't going to bring him up because it's so weird that he's getting attention, but Zach Joyce may not be in Knoxville next year. There's a lot of people saying that he may get drafted and he may go, which is just weird because he hardly threw it all this year. But for those of you who don't know how Major League Baseball works, they send scouts out to pro days and workouts all the time, and all it takes is one good workout in front of the right person, and all of a sudden you can shoot up a draft board. And they don't care how much you played that year. You touch 98, they're all of a sudden excited, and you're shooting up a draft board, and it's a weird thing.
Well, they saw the success his brother had this year, and I'm guessing they're hoping maybe a sibling can duplicate it.
Yeah.
Papa Jay said that the baseballs are hot right now. Can't wait until next season. Absolutely. You're talking about, NIL money and everything. And he said that's why they're going to spend $100 million on a baseball stadium and renovations to, the dorms and that kind of stuff. Elijah said this portal class is one of the best classes of any sport I've ever seen. That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
It is, because we haven't even gotten, if we just got AJ Causey and Nate Snead, that would be two huge additions. And I'm hearing that Luke Holman is down to Tennessee and LSU. If we get Luke Holman too, our 3 weekend starters will be Luke Holman, who is Alabama's ace and is a future first-round draft pick, AJ Causey, who will be a high draft pick down the road, and Drew Bean. We don't miss a beat. So, just incredible. So if we had just gotten AJ Causey and Nate Snead, that would be a huge upgrade to this roster. But then you throw in Cannon Peebles, who is probably the most wanted player in the entire portal, freshman All-American catcher out of North Carolina State, absolute stud, great defensively, kills the baseball, swings the bat extremely well, definite future high-round draft pick. We'll get him for 2 years because he was a true freshman this year. So we get him more than once. You add him in the mix. Then you go get Billy Amick, which I'll be honest, just blew my mind that we got him. Like everything pointed to him going to Florida. And that is a guy, love Zane Denton. Zane Denton is a great player. Billy Amick's better. Billy Amick hit well over 400 this year with 13 home runs, and he hits every pitch well. And if he ends up playing third base because Zane's gone, I hate to say it, but it's actually an upgrade. If Zane's back and Amick moves to shortstop or somewhere else, awesome, still an upgrade. And Billy Amick has that ability. He's a utility infielder. He can play any one of 3 spots. So massive addition there. And then we go, and the one that shocked everybody, we go and get Dalton Bargo, who was the kind of 1A catcher at Missouri this year. When he wasn't catching, he was their starting DH. Left-handed bat, hit almost 300 with 5 home runs. Very good hitter. He had an interesting interview this week where he said he was comfortable playing any number of 5 different positions that he has caught. He's played first and third, and he's played left field and right field. So you got a left-handed bat with a ton of SEC experience who swings it really, really well, who could be your backup catcher if something happens with Cal Stark. He could be your starting DH if you want another left-handed power bat in the lineup. He could be your starting left fielder. He can do a lot of things. And that versatility, I mean, I'm sitting here watching this take place and just going, it's unbelievable what Tony Vitello is pulling off. And for those of you who don't follow D1 Baseball on Twitter, if you want to follow people who actually know what they're talking about in college baseball, there's nobody better than D1 Baseball. And day before yesterday or 3 days ago, they made the comment that they would be very shocked if, when the preseason polls come out next spring, Tennessee is not number one. Because of the guys they brought in. You add the guys they brought in to the guys they return, they're an absolute front runner for the national championship. They're LSU of this year. That's really what they are. And if they get Luke Holman, whew, Katie bar the door.
I think that's a good analogy to the LSU of this year. I wouldn't be shocked if we end up seeing someone playing first base and Blake Burke DHing. I wouldn't be shocked if that ends up happening. Elijah Moore said, Elijah, great to have you with us, buddy.
Or even platooning, because, you know, people go, oh, well, they just play a game and they go out there. Blake Burke played almost every inning at first base this year in every game. And that's really hard to do. Like, your body just needs recovery time from time to time. So being able to platoon him and let him DH some would be a huge positive for him.
Elijah said the future is definitely very bright for the baseballs, feeling a natty in the next 3 to 4 years. Totally agree, man. I mean, my goodness, they've been on the doorstep of that national championship the past 3 years, really. Absolutely. Totally agree.
One guy that's kind of flown under the radar, and you know, Tennessee hasn't made a huge deal about him coming in, but come to find out, he's actually become he's gotten on the radar this weekend, because now they're a little concerned that he may not make it to Knoxville. But they've signed a JUCO shortstop out of Wabash Valley College named Brad Laurie. And I totally missed this kid. Like, whenever he committed, I didn't see it, and had no idea how good this kid was. He could legitimately be our starting shortstop next year if he ends up on campus. As a sophomore this year in JUCO, he hit .452 with 9 home runs, 60 RBIs, scored 92 runs, and stole 21 bases in 67 games. Let me say that again. In 67 games. And for those of you who don't know much about junior college baseball, some of the best pitchers in America are pitching at the JUCO level, because they're just hanging out till the next draft, and there are studs throwing at the JUCO level. In 67 games this year, he hit .452 with with 9 bombs, 60 RBIs, and scored 92 times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, that Joker can play. And, and you know, this class has been so impressive. He just got completely overlooked. Like, he might be one of the best players in the entire class, and he's just not getting any pub. But it's come up that he's draft eligible, and it's come up that Tony Vitello is a little concerned that he may not make it to Knoxville, because a few organizations have been really impressed with him, and he may go this weekend.
I agree with Elijah. 452 is insane. I mean, that's nuts. 92 runs in 67 games. That's nuts.
With 21 stolen bases. He's stealing a base every third game.
I mean, that means he's getting on base and getting himself around the bases, and there's people behind him hitting him in. I mean, that's what's going on. Wabash, what was it? Wabash something.
Wabash Valley College.
You don't want to be playing them folks. They're going to score some runs on you.
Mm-hmm.
But Elijah said, you know, he expects the national championship in the next 3 to 4 years for baseballs, and that's if it's not next year. Yeah, absolutely. Certainly could be.
If the draft is kind this weekend, I mean, okay, let's just hypothetically, let's just say this happens. So let's say whatever diagnosis or evaluation Zane Denton's gotten ends up not happening. You know, and that happens. Sometimes they tell guys stuff, and then things happen in the draft, and all of a sudden you have an opportunity to pick a guy you weren't expecting, and the guy you talk to, you just have to call and say, hey, we're not taking you. So let's say Ryan Galaney gets a bad draft grade or gets passed up on, and they say, we need to see you hit against SEC talent. And let's say Zane Denton doesn't go where whoever has told him potentially could happen. And let's say that Brad Laurie doesn't get picked out of Wabash Valley. Now, all of a sudden, we have the number one recruiting class in America coming in. We have the number one transfer portal group in America all coming in. And Zane Denton is returning. And one of the best JUCO shortstops in America is coming in. To go with Blake Burke, Christian Moore, Hunter Inslee, Drew Beam, Kirby Cannell, the crazy long list of arms in the bullpen, AJ Russell, Xander Sechrist, all these guys. I don't know how you could pick anybody else to be number one next year. I mean, I don't know how Tony Vitello is going to have enough time in the lineup to get 10 or 11 of those guys consistent at bats. Like he's literally going to be able to pick lineups based on lefty righty and put 9 dudes in the lineup, regardless of who he's facing, that can all go out there and just rake.
Yeah. You know, this past year, the 8 and 9 hole slots in the lineup, and they were kind of a liability, and that came back to get him a couple times. That won't be the case next year, especially if Cannon Peebles is behind the plate. I mean,
right.
There's not going to be a weak bat in the lineup.
Wes Rucker had a tweet either late last week or early this week where he made the comment, it is literally possible that the 7, 8, and 9 hitters in Tennessee's lineup next year could each hit 15 home runs.
Yeah, 100%. And they would be the 3, 4, 5 hitters in most other lineups.
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Jones said, go Vols. Sorry I'm late. Hey, no problem, Mr. Jones. We're glad you're here, buddy. He said, is Chase Burns already transferred, or is there a chance he returns? That's a good question.
So that's gotten real weird. He has not officially transferred. He is still in the portal. Everybody still believes he's going to TCU. Again, you know, it goes back to the advisor. He has somebody in his ear that is essentially his agent, who is very closely connected to the TCU coaching staff. And everybody assumes that's where he's going. But for some reason, they haven't made it official, and it's getting a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, unfortunately, you know, I don't think he'll be back at Tennessee. But, you know, if it's going to be a cancer in the locker room, the attitude issue or something like that, then, you know, it may be better that he's not. But it does hurt to lose that arm. That's no doubt about it. He said Chase could be a starter for us next season. Yeah, he could. He could be a starter pretty much anywhere he wants to go.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, and Mr. Jones didn't hear us talk about this a second ago. Alabama's ace, Luke Holman, has narrowed it down to Tennessee and LSU. And he is a legit first-round draft pick. So if we get him, the rotation next year is Holman, Causey, and Beam, and we're just fine.
Absolutely. The future is bright. And like I think it was Papa J said, Papa J said about the stadium renovations. Stadium renovations look amazing. Like they look so good. If you haven't seen those yet, you can find them on utsports.com. You can also go on Twitter and go to the Tennessee baseball page and find those gorgeous renovations. Makes Lindsey Nelson Stadium look twice as big. I mean, like it's really, really impressive. Mr. Jones said maybe that was the boost he needed, was to be moved to the bullpen because it lit a fire in him. I don't know. That wasn't there, but that fire wasn't there before. Yeah, I mean, you know, different people thrive in different situations.
I don't know that the issue is Chase Burns' ability or his effort or anything else other than, and we said this a couple of weeks ago when all this stuff started, he is now on his fifth advisor in 4 years.
and that's baseball, not academic.
It,
Baseball advisor,
again,
not academic.
and Mr. Jones, I know you joined us late, but in baseball, they're allowed to have essentially an agent, but they have to call it an advisor. So what did we really just say? He's on his 5th agent in 4 years.
Yeah.
There are guys out there that stay with the same agent for 20, 25 years. Chase Burns is on his 5th in 4 years. That's not a skill or an effort issue. That's a completely different issue.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Well, we're so glad everybody joined us this evening. We'll probably clip out the first part of this and make that a standalone video. Elijah said, "How does that even happen? You have 5 advisors and 4." Yeah, exactly.
You're getting a lot of bad advice, and you're bouncing around chasing whoever is the shiniest at the moment.
He knows what he wants to hear, and he's trying to find the person that'll tell it to him. That's exactly what's going on. But we really do appreciate everybody joining us. This has been a lot of fun. We'll cut out the first part and in preparation for SEC Media Days, and we'll post that soon. We still got, I think, 7 teams left in our SEC prediction series that we'll be putting out all this week. I think the last one will be a week from today. So hopefully see those. Mr. Jones said he thinks there's a name that is a good idea as well. So he said Joe Milton, Brew McCoy, Cade Mays, Cooper Mays, and Jabari Small. It could be. I think Joe is a lock for sure.
Yeah.
Cooper is probably a pretty good pick as well. I'm surprised Brew wasn't in New York instead of Ramel Keaton. But Jabari Small, no, that's an interesting choice right there, and that'd be cool if he was there. I think that would be a statement for Jabari. I think that would be a cool thing for him.
They're really trying to establish Aaron Beasley as the captain of that defense. Yep. I'll be very surprised if he's not there.
Yeah, me too. I think Joe and Aaron Beasley are pretty much 2 locks to be there.
Yeah.
So, we hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We love doing this. It's so much fun. We hope everybody has a great Sunday ahead of them, and we look forward to seeing everybody soon. It'll probably be a little over a week. We'll get all the rest of those SEC videos out, and then we will see everybody very, very soon. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. Go Vols, baby. Go Vols.